And so this is what God says to Abraham. Leave your country, your people, and your father's household, and go to the land I will show you. I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you, I will also curse. And all the peoples of the earth will be blessed through you. The speaking God, this God who speaks to us, says, I will bless you. I will make you into a great nation, and you will be a blessing. That our God is not just a speaking God. Is not just a God who lowers himself to speak to our level. He is a God who blesses. Our God not only speaks to us, but he wants to bless us. He says to Abraham, I will make you into a great nation. I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. And I will bless whoever blesses you, and whoever curses you, I will curse. And all the peoples on earth will be blessed through you. What a great promise from God. And as Abraham hears God speak, and as he hears God say, I'll bless you. This blessing God, the speaking God who blesses. Abraham has got a great promise from God. And when you look at the scriptures, and when you look at Hebrews 11, when you look at James 2:23, Abraham was a friend of God. What greater blessing can be bestowed on a man than to be called a friend of God? We have a God who speaks to us, and we have a God that wants to bless us. We have a speaking God, and we have a blessing God. The story of Abraham is not so much about Abraham as it is about our speaking and blessing God. These words just echo throughout history. So then we get to verse 4, our speaking God and our blessing God. Then we get to Genesis 12:4. So Abraham left as the Lord had told him, and Lot went with him. Abraham was 75 years old when he set out from Haran. So Abraham had left the land of Ur. They had settled in Haran, and now God is calling him away from his secondary place to calling him to the land of Canaan. We have a God that speaks, and we have a God that blesses. But we also have a God that agitates. A God that challenges the status quo, that doesn't allow things to stay the same. He makes us different. He causes us to grow. And we live in a day and age where we always are asking God why. You can go down to the bookstore and you'll find all sorts of resources on why God does things that he does. You can go to the Christian bookstores, where one of my favorite books, Where is God When It Hurts? By Philip Yancey. And then there's another book that he followed up with, Disappointment with God. And we have an understanding of, God, why do you bring circumstances into my life? Lord, I was doing so great. Why would you cause things to change? And it's because our speaking and blessing God is an agitating God. This agitating God who calls us to leave behind things from our past, that calls us to trust him when he speaks to us, that calls us to seek his blessing, and calls us to trust him when the status quo is questioned. This speaking, blessing, and agitating God. And here's an important point for us to understand as we look at the life of Abraham, that God never calls us to be anything less than we already are. That as we look at circumstances in our lives that maybe challenge us and stretch us and make us maybe even question God, that the reason God is agitating things It is not so that he can make us anything less than we already are. Our God never intends to make us anything less than we already are. This God agitates things so that we might be better prepared to be recipients of the blessing. And let's just think, if Abraham decided that he just wasn't going to leave the land of Haran. I'm not going to leave, God. I'm just going to stay here in Ur. If there's an attitude of not moving, then you will never get the land that God has promised. That in order for Abraham and his offspring to be the descendants, to receive the land that God has promised, they had to leave the land that they already had. That in order for them to claim what God has promised, they had to leave something behind. We have a God that speaks, and we have a God that blesses. But in order to receive the blessings that God has promised, we have to leave something behind. God never calls us to be anything less than we already are. So Abraham leaves, he goes, and he seeks the blessing. And he follows the promise of God. I will bless you, and you will be a blessing. I want you to just notice something else here. Abraham was 75 years old when he set out from Haran. Let's take a little sidetrack here. There are a lot of Christians here. There are a lot of people that will say, you know what, Lord, I just need to get through college, maybe finish my graduate work school, and once I get through with graduate school, Lord, then I'm going to seek you, and I'm going to seek after your blessings with all my heart. I'm going to do what I can for you, but right now I just can't. I can't right now, Lord. Right now I'm busy. Lord, I've got young kids, and when you're young, you say, I'm too young to serve God. And Abraham at 75, a lot of people at 75 say, no, God, I'm too old. I can't do it, and I'm too old to serve God. And then there's people in their mid-30s and their mid-40s, and they've got kids, and they're too busy. And there are so many people that have so many excuses for not serving or speaking, blessing, and agitating God. And Abraham says, I know I'm 75. I know I've accumulated a lot. I know I've got a great land. I'm a wealthy man. And he says, I will leave. I will go because I trust the promises of God. That I trust the speaking, blessing God. I will trust him. Ladies and gentlemen, there is never an excuse. There is never a reason why we shouldn't trust our blessing God. That as we talk, the story of Abraham is not so much about Abraham. It is the story of God. Ladies and gentlemen, the story of your life is not the story of your life. It is the story of Jesus. You are just a supporting character. And it's time to stop making excuses about all the reasons why I can't follow my speaking, blessing God. And it's time for me to leave behind the things that God has called me to leave in order to that I might claim the blessing that God has put into my life. No excuses. Abraham, at 75, he set out from Haran. In verse 5, he took his wife Sarai, his nephew Lot,